My daughter-in-law tossed me out of my son's house, and then a lawyer called me about a secret will. He said the will had a clause creating a $7 million trust for me through Chen Martinez and Associates. He said there was also a custody trigger and audio recordings proving she planned to cut me off and move my grandkids. 2 weeks earlier, I was folding my son's sweaters, crying into the wool, when she said, "Gone by tomorrow evening." My stomach dropped so hard I thought I'd throw up right there on the carpet. Back in March, 7 days after my son's death, right before she said, "We need to talk," I was sitting on the living room floor because I couldn't stand the couch anymore. It still smelled like Grant, not in a ghost way, in a laundry way. His detergent, his cologne, the faintest hint of that hospital soap that had clung to him at the end. The funeral flowers were still on the coffee table, starting to turn at the edges, and I was folding his sweaters like that could keep him in the world. Gray one, navy one, the soft one he wore when he'd come over to my place and steal my good coffee like he owned the kitchen. My hands were shaking. Not dramatic shaking, the kind you get when your body's been pretending it's fine for too long. And then I heard Brittany's heels. Click, click, click. She stopped in the doorway and didn't come in all the way like I was something she didn't want to step close to. Her voice was quiet, too quiet. "We need to talk." That was my first warning, because that wasn't the voice she used at the funeral. At the funeral, she'd been soft, publicly soft. She'd hugged people. She'd let them pat her shoulder. She'd said, "Thank you for being here," like she was hosting a brunch. In private, she didn't host. She managed. I stood up too fast and my knee popped, and I hated that my body betrayed my age right then. I wiped my face with the heel of my hand like a teenager and tried to look like I had any say in anything. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" She glanced past me at the sweaters like they offended her. This isn't healthy." I blinked. "Folding his clothes isn't healthy?" "For the kids," she said, and she put emphasis on the word kids like it ended the conversation. "They don't need to see you like this, crying all the time. It's a lot." I actually laughed once, not because it was funny, because it was so cold I didn't have another reaction ready. "I'm their grandma," I said. "They've seen me cry before." Brittany crossed her arms. Perfect nails, hair done, a black sweater that looked new, not funeral new, new. They need stability. There it was, the word she'd been using on everyone all week. Stability. Like grief was a messy room she could declutter. I swallowed hard. I'm not trying to upset them. I've been helping. I've been making breakfast, getting them to school, homework. She cut me off with a small shake of her head. "I can handle my children." It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. That's what made it worse. I tried to keep my voice even. "Grant wanted me here." Her eyes sharpened. "Grant was on medication at the end, Diane." "Oh, okay. So we were doing that." I felt heat rise up my neck. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't rewrite him." She stepped fully into the living room then, like she'd finally decided I wasn't contagious. "This house belongs to me now. And look, I know how ownership works on paper. I'm not stupid. But I sold my little apartment when Grant asked me to move in. I'd been living alone since my husband passed, and when Grant got sick, he said, 'Mom, please, be here. I need you. The kids need you.' And I did it. I packed up my whole life into boxes and came here. So when she said that, it wasn't a legal statement to me, it was a burial. My mouth went dry. "Brittany, I have nowhere else right now." She sighed, like I was making her day harder. "You can find somewhere." "Somewhere," I repeated. "Like where?" She walked over to the mirror in the hallway and smoothed her hair, watching herself as she spoke. "I'd like you gone by tomorrow evening." There it was, the line that made my body go cold. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to say, "I'm just overwhelmed," or "I didn't sleep," or literally anything human. Nothing. I heard the refrigerator hum. I heard a car go by outside. I heard the faint sound of a cartoon from upstairs, where the kids were, like the world kept spinning even when mine stopped. "Tomorrow," I said slowly. "You mean 24 hours? She shrugged. "Yes." My chest tightened. I put my hand on the back of a dining chair like it could keep me upright. Brittany, please. I'm not asking to stay forever. Just let me get through this week. Let the kids settle. Let me. She lifted a hand like she was stopping traffic. Don't be dramatic. I felt something snap, not into rage, but into clarity. Because that's what she did. She labeled your reaction, and once she labeled it, she didn't have to care. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being a mother who buried her son. Her face hardened, and I buried my husband. And she was right. She did. She lost him too, but grief doesn't give you a license to throw people away. She pointed with 2 fingers toward the guest room I'd been sleeping in since Grant got sick. Pack your things. I looked toward the stairs and lowered my voice without even meaning to. What about Lily and Noah? Are you going to tell them you're kicking me out? They're 8 and 10, she said. They'll adjust. I felt my eyes sting again, but I refused to cry in front of her. It would feed her, I could tell. Adjust, I repeated. They've been asking for their dad every night. Brittany's jaw worked like she was chewing on a thought she didn't want to say out loud. Then she said it anyway. They need to stop living in the past. That was the first truly controversial thing she said. Not because it was cruel, though it was. Because it told me exactly who she planned to be from here on out. So I'm going to ask you something, because I still don't know the right answer and I've replayed it 100 different ways. Comment below, if you were me, would you tell the kids the truth right then, or leave quietly so they didn't watch their mom and grandma tear each other apart? Because in that moment, my choices felt ugly no matter what. I took a slow breath. I'm not their past, I said. I'm their family. Brittany's eyes flicked toward the stairs again. I said what I said. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march upstairs and scoop those babies into my arms and say, Grandma's right here, and I'm not going anywhere. But I pictured Noah's face if he saw his mother and me in a full-blown fight. I pictured Lily clinging to the banister, crying, confused, thinking she was about to lose someone else. And I couldn't do it to them. So I did the thing I've always done. I swallowed it, I took it in my own throat like poison, and told myself I'd figure it out later. I nodded once like a woman with dignity. Okay, I said. Brittany's shoulders loosened, like she'd expected more resistance and was relieved she didn't have to show her teeth. Good, she said. Thank you for being reasonable. Reasonable, like eviction was a reasonable request. She turned and walked away, heels clicking again, already done with me. I stood there for a full minute staring at the spot where she'd been. Then my body finally caught up and I had to sit down. I sat on the floor again, right next to Grant's sweaters, and I pressed my fist into my mouth so no sound came out. I didn't cry pretty. I didn't cry quiet. I cried like an animal that got separated from the herd. And then I stopped myself because time was running. 24 hours. That night, I packed like I was trying not to exist. That's the best way I can explain it. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't drag suitcases. I moved like a shadow. I had 1 suitcase left from my apartment. The rest of my things were in storage boxes in the garage, but I couldn't even look at those yet. I grabbed what mattered in a way that felt stupid at the time. Toiletries, a few outfits, my blood pressure medication, and Grant's gray cardigan. Not his nice stuff, the cardigan, the one that still held the shape of his shoulders. That thing weighed more than any box. I went into the kids' rooms and stood in the doorway. Noah's room was half clean, half boy, a baseball glove on the floor, a stack of library books, a hoodie tossed over a chair like he'd been too tired to care. Lily's room had stuffed animals lined up like an audience, and a little watercolor painting she'd made at school taped crooked to the wall. I didn't go in. I didn't touch anything, I just looked. Because once I stepped over that threshold, I knew I'd start bargaining with myself again. One more day, one more week, one more bedtime story. And Brittany had made it clear, not today. I went back to my room and pulled out the framed photo I kept on my nightstand. Christmas 2 years ago. Grant in an ugly sweater, Lily missing a front tooth, Noah trying to look cool and failing. My whole heart in one rectangle. My iPhone was on the charger and the screen was still cracked from when it slipped out of my pocket at the hospital. I stared at it like it could give me a plan. I had some money in my Chase checking, but not new apartment money. I had Social Security, a little savings, enough to live like an older woman who expected peace, not a refugee in her own family. At midnight, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a note for the kids. I didn't write Brittany's name. I didn't accuse. I didn't poison the well. I didn't know what Brittany would tell them, and I didn't want my words to become ammo in her hands. So I wrote the truth that mattered. I told them I loved them more than anything. I told them their dad loved them too. I told them I'd see them soon. I told them they did nothing wrong. My hand cramped halfway through because I was shaking again. I wiped a tear off the paper and kept going. Then I stood up and walked it into the bathroom they used and stuck it to the mirror with a piece of tape, right where Lily would see it when she brushed her teeth. That felt like leaving my heartbeat behind. I went back downstairs and listened. The house creaked. The HVAC kicked on. Somewhere upstairs, a child sighed in their sleep. I looked at the front door and realized how insane this was. I had lived in this house with Grant. I had cooked in this kitchen. I had held my grandkids on this staircase. And now I was sneaking out like I'd stolen something. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, suitcase zipped, waiting for the dark to turn into morning. Around 5 a.m., I heard Brittany's bedroom door open upstairs, then the shower. That was my window. I moved fast. I grabbed my suitcase, my purse, the framed photo wrapped in a sweatshirt so the glass wouldn't crack, and a grocery bag with crackers and 2 bottles of water I'd shoved in there earlier like I was planning a road trip. I opened the garage door just enough to slip out. My Camry sat there with a thin layer of dust on the hood. I'd barely driven it since Grant got sick. The world had shrunk to hospital, school, grocery store, home. I loaded the trunk and it barely closed. I had to shove with my hip, and for a second I thought about how ridiculous it was. My whole life reduced to a trunk that wouldn't latch. I backed out slowly, holding my breath like the car itself could wake the kids. As I rolled down the driveway, I glanced up at the front window. And there she was. Brittany, in a robe, holding a coffee mug, watching me. Not crying, not shocked, not regretful. Watching like she was checking that a delivery got picked up on time. My hands clenched so hard on the steering wheel, my knuckles went white. I didn't wave. I didn't honk. I didn't do anything that would make noise. I just left. The neighborhood was quiet in that early Ohio morning way. Wet pavement, gray sky, a few porch lights still on. I passed the elementary school and my throat closed up because I knew in a couple hours Noah and Lily would walk those halls and not know I'd been forced out before sunrise. I drove with no destination for the first 15 minutes, just streets, turns, red lights I barely noticed. My phone buzzed with a low battery warning because the cord in my car was finicky and I hadn't replaced it in months. I wanted to throw the whole thing out the window. At a stoplight, I heard Grant's voice in my head like he was sitting in the passenger seat. "Mom, don't let anybody make you feel small." And then I pictured Brittany's face in the hallway mirror, smoothing her hair while she told me to disappear. I pulled into a Kroger parking lot because it was familiar and safe, and I didn't know what else to do. I parked far away from the entrance, and just sat there with the engine off. The sun was coming up, pale and weak. My hands were still trembling. I tried to breathe slow, like those doctors tell you, but it didn't fix the fact that I was 62 and suddenly homeless. Homeless. That word felt like a different species of person. It didn't feel like me. And yet, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror, puffy eyes, hair shoved into a clip, a woman who had just buried her son and got discarded like extra furniture. I thought about calling someone, but who? My sister was in Florida and in poor health herself. My closest friend had just started chemo, and I was too ashamed to say the sentence out loud. My daughter-in-law kicked me out. So I did what older women do when they've been taught their whole life not to be a burden. I tried to solve it alone. I drove to a Target off Sawmill Road and bought a cheap phone charger, a travel pillow, and a blanket that felt like cardboard. I told myself it was just for a night. Like that lie could make it less terrifying. Then I sat in my car again and watched families walk in and out with carts, laughing, annoyed at normal things like missing coupons and kids begging for candy. Normal life. I wasn't in it anymore. Around lunchtime, my stomach growled, and I realized I hadn't eaten, not really. I drove through a Wendy's and ordered a small chili because it was warm and cheap, and I didn't want fries. Fries felt too happy. I ate with the steering wheel pressed against my ribs and tried not to cry into the spoon. And sometime in the late afternoon, when my body finally stopped running on adrenaline, the reality punched me again. Night was coming. Where do you go at night when you don't have a key? I didn't want to sleep in a Walmart lot. I didn't want to end up somewhere that made me feel unsafe. I didn't want to be seen. I hated that I cared about being seen, but I did. I drove north until the houses got sparse and the highway got loud. I found a 24-hour diner off I-71, the kind with buzzing lights and a parking lot that never fully empties. I didn't go inside yet. I just sat there and watched the doors open and close. Truckers, night shift workers, teenagers laughing too loud. My blanket was on the passenger seat. My suitcase was in the trunk. Grant's gray cardigan was folded in my lap like a prayer. I turned off the engine and the car went silent except for the ticking sound it makes when it cools down. My breath fogged the windshield a little. I stared at the diner sign and tried to picture myself sleeping in this seat like it was a choice. And right before the sky went fully dark, I made myself a promise I didn't know how I'd keep. I whispered it, because it felt like the only thing I still owned. "I'm not disappearing," I said, "not from them." Then I reclined the seat one notch. Just one, like I was still pretending this was temporary, and I gripped that cardigan tighter. Cut to black. Because the next part of this story isn't about heartbreak. It's about what happens when the world stops seeing you, and you're still standing there anyway. The next thing I did was sit up straight like somebody had just yelled my name. Because a knock hit my window, 2 sharp taps, and for half a second my whole body thought it was Brittany coming to finish the job. It wasn't. It was a waitress in a puffy jacket, holding a trash bag, looking at me like she was trying to decide whether to be annoyed or worried. Her name tag said Kim, and her hair was pulled up in a messy bun like she'd been awake since yesterday. I rolled the window down an inch, just enough to talk. Cold air slid in. "You okay, ma'am?" she asked. I nodded too fast. "Yes, I'm fine, just resting." Her eyes flicked to my blanket on the seat and the way my purse strap was looped around my wrist like a leash. She didn't buy my resting. She lowered her voice. "You can park closer to the lights if you want. Safer." That kindness almost wrecked me. It was so small and so normal, and I felt my throat tighten anyway. "Thank you," I whispered. She hesitated, then said, "We got coffee inside. Hot. No charge." I shook my head, because my pride was still alive even if everything else was falling apart. Then I changed my mind because my hands were stiff and my teeth were chattering and pride doesn't keep you warm. "Okay," I said, "just coffee." Inside the diner, it smelled like bacon grease and bleach, and the kind of syrup that sticks to tables. The booths were torn in a few places. The lights buzzed. The place was half empty, but not empty, which was exactly what I wanted. Kim led me to a booth near the window. She poured coffee so dark it looked like it had feelings. "You got somebody to call?" she asked, like she was trying to pretend she didn't care. "I'm working on it," I said. She nodded slowly, then slid a little basket of creamers toward me. "Restroom code is 1957. I almost laughed, because 1957 is the year I was born. Like the universe had jokes ready. I sat there with my cracked screen iPhone 11 plugged into the wall outlet by the booth. Thank God this diner had one, and I watched the battery icon climb from red to something less terrifying. And when the phone finally turned on properly, it lit up with the kind of silence that isn't receipts yet, but it's the start of them. 3 missed calls from unknown, 1 missed call from no caller ID, and a text message from an unsaved number that said, "Stop contacting my children. This is harassment." No name, no signature, just that. My fingers went numb. I stared at it until the words started to blur. Because I hadn't contacted anyone. I hadn't even gone back. I hadn't called the kids. I didn't have their phones. They're 8 and 10. What was I supposed to do? Call and beg a child to put their mother on? I took a screenshot anyway, not because I was planning anything, because my gut said, save it. Then another text came in, same number. If you show up here again, I will call the police. There it was. A threat, clean and simple. I didn't reply. I wanted to. Lord, I wanted to. I wanted to type, how dare you, and they're my grandbabies, and Grant would be disgusted. But replies are how you give people hooks. Brittany lived for hooks. I could feel it. So I saved it. I took another screenshot. I emailed both screenshots to myself because I didn't trust my phone, not with that cracked screen and that cheap charger and my luck lately. Then the phone rang again. Unknown. I let it go to voicemail. My hands were shaking too much to answer. The voicemail came through a second later, and I listened with my ear pressed to the speaker, like a teenager hiding something. A man's voice, calm and professional. Miss Holloway, this is Malcolm Price. I'm calling regarding the estate of Grant Holloway. Please call me back as soon as possible. I'm with Chin Martinez and Associates. I sat back so hard the booth squeaked. Okay, so it wasn't just Brittany being cruel. It wasn't just my life collapsing quietly in a Kroger parking lot. Something else was moving. Kim came by and set down a plate with a plain egg and toast like she hadn't even asked me. Eat something, she said, like it was an instruction and not a suggestion. I didn't order. Eat, she repeated, and walked away before I could refuse. I ate because my body was starting to feel floaty, and floaty is how you make bad decisions. Then I called Malcolm Price back. It rang once, twice, and I was bracing for voicemail when he picked up. Ms. Holloway? His voice was warm in that lawyer way, like he'd practiced sounding human. This is Diane, I said. I got your message. Thank you for calling back, he said. I'm sorry for your loss. I exhaled, shakily. Yeah. There was a pause. Papers rustled on his end. I'm reaching out because your son left documents that require immediate attention, he said, and I'm having difficulty coordinating through the surviving spouse. That made my pulse jump. Brittany? I said. Yes, he replied, careful. Brittany Kincaid. She has not responded to multiple requests for a meeting. I looked out the diner window at my Camry under the parking lot light, like it could give me stability just by existing. She doesn't want to meet, I said. She wants me gone. Another pause. Ms. Holloway, he said, are you currently safe? Safe. That word again, showing up like it had a job. I'm okay, I said, which was a lie I could live with. All right, he said gently. I need to explain something, and I want to do it carefully. My stomach twisted. Okay. There is a will, he said, and there are attached instruments. One of them is a trust. I held my coffee mug with both hands because my fingers wouldn't stop. A trust for who? For you, he said. Grant designated you as a beneficiary in a significant way. I swallowed. What does significant mean? It means, he said, there is a $7 million trust established for your benefit. My vision went a little sparkly at the edges. I actually pressed my palm to my forehead like I could keep my brain from sliding off. That can't be right, I whispered. It's right, he said. And there is more. I closed my eyes. What more? There is a custody-related trigger, he said, and the words came out like he hated them. Grant included provisions that address guardianship and access if certain conditions are met. My mouth went dry. Conditions like what? Like you being removed from the home, he said, or being denied contact with the children. I opened my eyes so fast it hurt. He thought she'd do this? There was a beat of silence, and that was answer enough. Miss Holloway, Malcolm said, do you have a place to meet today, somewhere private? I almost laughed again, that awful laugh. Private? I'm sitting in a diner off I-71. That works, he said, and then he corrected himself quickly. I'm sorry. I don't mean it works like it's ideal. I mean I can come to you, or we can set a secure meeting in my office. I stared at the plate Kim had forced on me, toast half eaten. I can't go back to the house, I said. I'm not asking you to, he replied. Listen to me. Please do not confront Brittany alone. Do not go to the home without counsel or law enforcement present if she's made threats. I thought of her watching me from the window with that mug. She already has, I said. Threatened police. Then we proceed carefully, he said. I will email you an appointment confirmation and a list of documents to bring. Do you have identification on you? Yes, I said. Driver's license. Social security card is in my suitcase. All right, he said. And I need you to preserve every message from Brittany. Take screenshots. Do not delete anything. If you have bank alerts, save those as well. I felt my heart start pounding harder. Why bank alerts? He sighed softly. Because there have been recent transactions tied to Grant's accounts and the household accounts that are concerning. My grip tightened around the mug. Concerning how? I can't discuss details over the phone, he said, but I can tell you this. You need to check your Chase account now. My stomach dropped. I set the mug down and pulled up my Chase app with shaking fingers. It took forever to load on the diner Wi-Fi. I watched the little spinning icon like it was mocking me. Then it opened, and I saw 3 withdrawals I didn't recognize. Not little ones. A $4.500 transfer labeled Zelle transfer to a name I didn't recognize. A $2.200 debit purchase at a furniture place. And a $980 cash withdrawal. My chest went tight again. What is this? I whispered. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. When you're grieving, your brain isn't sharp. You're soft. Your edges are gone. And Brittany knew I was soft. She'd had access to the house, the mail, the accounts Grant used for household bills, the passwords he probably saved somewhere. And I, like a fool, had been paying for groceries and school supplies and gas and little things because I thought we were a family, and it didn't occur to me to lock everything down. I scrolled further back. 2 days before she kicked me out, there was a transfer from Grant's account into a joint household account, then another outgoing transfer, then another. I didn't even know what I was looking at yet, but I knew one thing. It wasn't an accident. I took screenshots of the transactions. I emailed those too. Then my phone buzzed again. An email notification, Columbus City Schools. Subject line, pickup authorization update confirmed. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. I opened it. It was a confirmation that the student pickup list had been updated for Noah Holloway and Lily Holloway. And the authorized person listed? Brittany Kincaid. That wasn't the problem. Of course she was authorized. The problem was what wasn't there. My name. My name was gone. I read it twice, 3 times, like it would change if I stared hard enough. It didn't. I looked up and realized my hands were trembling so hard the phone was rattling against the table. Kim slid into the booth across from me without asking, like she could see I was about to fall apart. "You're white as a sheet," she said. I tried to speak and nothing came out. My throat was locked. She reached over and put her hand on my wrist, warm and firm. "Breathe," she said, slow. I nodded, but my eyes were burning. Brittany wasn't just throwing me out. She was erasing me. She was removing me from every system that could put me near those kids. School, doctor, emergency contact, pickup list, everything. And if I tried to show up, I wouldn't be grandma, I'd be a woman who is not authorized. Which is a fancy way of saying stranger. My phone buzzed again, another email. This time from an address I didn't recognize, but the subject line made my stomach flip. Notice of trespass/no contact request. My fingers went cold. I opened it. It was formatted like it came from a law office template. It said I was to cease contact, cease attempts to enter the property, and that any attempt to return would be treated as trespassing. There was Brittany's name at the bottom, and it was CC'd to Malcolm Price. Oh, she was playing hard. I forwarded it to my own email too, then took screenshots because I didn't trust anything. Kim's eyes widened. Is that legal, what she's doing? I don't know, I said, voice cracking. I don't know anything right now. She leaned back and exhaled. Do you have family? My grandkids, I said, and my voice wobbled. But their mother hates me. Kim looked like she wanted to say something rude about Brittany. She didn't, probably because she'd just met me and didn't know if I'd defend the woman who tossed me out. I didn't defend her. I sat there and stared at the email, and something inside me shifted. Because I realized Brittany wasn't acting impulsive. This wasn't just grief and panic. This was structured, step by step. Kick me out. Threaten police. Cut off contact. Make it official looking. Control the narrative. I was a problem she wanted, removed from the story of her life. My phone rang again. Malcolm. I answered this time. I'm looking at my account, I said. And my name is removed from the school pickup list, and she emailed me a trespass notice. His voice got tight. Thank you for telling me. Do you still have the email? Yes, I said. I forwarded it. Good, he said. Do not respond to her. We'll respond through counsel. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What am I supposed to do? Just sit in a diner while she turns me into a criminal? Right now, he said, you're supposed to protect yourself and preserve evidence. That word again, evidence, like my life had turned into a case file. He continued, I can meet you this afternoon. There's a conference room in our Columbus office, but if you can't get here, we can arrange a neutral location. I can drive, I said. I have my Camry. All right, he said. I'll send you the address. When you arrive, ask for me at reception. And Ms. Holloway? Yes? If she calls the police, do not argue. Stay calm. State your name. State your relationship. State that you are represented and that any communication should go through counsel. Represented, I repeated, like the word tasted strange. You will be, he said, very soon. When I hung up, my hands were still trembling, but I wasn't frozen anymore. I went to the restroom and splashed water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror and I barely recognized the woman staring back. Puffy eyes, hair frizzed up, lines around my mouth deeper than they were 2 weeks ago. I leaned over the sink and whispered, "Okay, Diane. Okay, get it together." Then my phone buzzed again. A text message, different number this time. Stop telling people I kicked you out, you left, you're unstable. I stared at it. She was already controlling the story, already planting that word, unstable. It made my skin crawl. I took a screenshot. Then the next text popped in, like she couldn't help herself. The kids are scared of you. That one hit like a slap. My chest tightened so hard I had to grip the sink. Because I knew it was a lie, but lies don't need to be true to damage you. They just need to be said. I walked back out and Kim was waiting near the counter like she'd been keeping an eye on me without being obvious. You're leaving? She asked. I have to, I said. I have to go downtown. She nodded, then reached under the counter and pulled out a small paper bag. Sandwich, she said. Take it. No arguments. I can pay. She gave me a look that could cut metal. No. I took it. I hated that I needed it. I took it anyway. In the Camry, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and took a long breath. Then I did something I should have done the second Brittany started acting strange. I called Nancy Hargrove. Nancy had lived 2 houses down back when Grant and Brittany first moved into that neighborhood. She'd watched those kids grow up. She'd brought casseroles when Grant got sick. She was the kind of woman who always knew who was mad at who and why. She answered on the second ring. Diane? The moment I heard her voice, my throat clenched again. Nancy, I said, I need help. Oh, honey, she said immediately. Where are you? I hesitated. In my car. Silence, heavy and furious. Did she put you out? Yes, I whispered. Nancy's voice sharpened. That witch. I almost cried, with relief at someone else saying it first. I can't come to the house, I said. She threatened police. She's removed me from the school pickup list. She's sending emails like I'm a trespasser. Nancy inhaled like she was about to go to war. Do you want me to go over there? My heart jumped. No, I said quickly. No, don't. I don't want you dragged into it. I'm already in it, she snapped. Grant was like a son to me, Diane. That made my eyes burn again. I'm meeting an attorney, I said. Malcolm Price, Chen Martinez and Associates. Nancy went quiet. That sounds expensive. I don't know what it is yet, I admitted. But Grant, he left something. A trust and provisions. Nancy let out a breath. Oh! That one syllable carried a whole lot of understanding. Listen, she said, lowering her voice. I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Tell me, I said. I saw a moving truck 2 days after the funeral, she said. Not a big one, like a rental, and it was there for maybe an hour. My grip tightened. A moving truck? For what? I don't know, Nancy said, but I saw boxes. I saw her brother, I think it's her brother, carrying stuff out of the garage, and Brittany was standing there with her arms crossed like she was supervising. My stomach churned. Grant's things? I couldn't tell, Nancy admitted, but it wasn't groceries. I stared straight ahead, the road blurry for a second. So she'd been planning this. While I was folding sweaters and trying not to drown, she was organizing movers. Nancy continued. And Diane? I heard her in the driveway on the phone. I didn't mean to. I was taking out trash. My heart was pounding now. What did she say? She said, Nancy replied, once she's out, it's clean. No more interference. My stomach turned over. No more interference. That's what I was to her. Interference. I swallowed hard. Nancy, can you write down what you saw? Dates, times, anything you remember. There was a pause. Are we doing this like a case? Yeah, I said, voice low. I think we are. All right, she said. I'll write it. I'll sign it if you want, whatever you need. I exhaled, shaky. Thank you. And Diane, she added, softer, you can come stay with me. My heart twisted. I can't, I said quickly. If she claims I'm stalking or harassing or... She can claim whatever she wants, Nancy said. But I could hear the worry in her voice. She knew what I knew. Claims become paperwork. Paperwork becomes police calls. Police calls become records. Records become weapons. I just need a couple days, I said. I have to do this right. Nancy sighed. Okay, but don't be alone tonight. Promise me. I hesitated. Then, I'll try. I hung up and drove toward downtown Columbus with my phone on the passenger seat like a ticking bomb. Halfway there, Malcolm's email came through with an address and a confirmation. Subject line, confidential appointment confirmation / Holloway Estate. Attachment, document request.pdf. I didn't open the PDF while driving. My mother raised me better than that, but I could feel my pulse in my throat. At a stoplight, I glanced at the little preview list in the email body. It asked for ID, any correspondence from Brittany, bank statements, any recordings, any documents Grant had given me. Recordings. My mind snagged on that word. Because 2 nights before Grant died, he'd asked me to bring him his phone. He'd been too weak to reach the nightstand. I'd handed it to him and he'd said, Mom, I need you to keep something safe. I'd been crying. I'd been telling him he didn't have to worry about anything. And he'd looked at me with that tired seriousness like he'd already seen this coming. He'd made me promise. I had shoved whatever it was into my purse without looking because I didn't want to argue with a dying man. I hadn't thought about it since. My hands went cold. I pulled into a parking lot near the courthouse, metered, overpriced, but I didn't care, and I dug through my purse like my life depended on it. Receipts. Tissues. A lipstick I hadn't worn in months. A crumpled list for Kroger. And then my fingers hit a small plastic sleeve. A flash drive. My breath caught. It was labeled in Grant's handwriting, shaky but clear. For Mom, if anything happens. My chest squeezed so tight I had to lean forward against the steering wheel. This wasn't just a case. This was my son reaching past death to grab my hand. I sat there in that parking lot with the flash drive in my palm like it was a live wire. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have anything to plug it into. But I had a meeting. And I had something Brittany didn't know I had. I put the flash drive back in the sleeve, zipped it into the inside pocket of my purse, and walked into Chen Martinez and Associates with my shoulders back, even though my knees felt like jelly. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and expensive carpet. People in suits moved around like their lives weren't on fire. At the reception desk, a young woman looked up. "Can I help you?" "My name is Diane Holloway," I said. My voice shook a little. I hated that. "I'm here to see Malcolm Price." Her expression shifted. Not pity, not exactly, but recognition, like my name had been on someone's calendar in bold. "Yes, Miss Holloway," she said. "He's expecting you." She handed me a visitor badge and gestured toward a hallway, Conference Room B. I walked down the hallway past framed certificates and glossy photos of smiling attorneys. My hands were cold. My mouth was dry. Conference Room B had a glass wall and a long table that felt too big for one woman and her purse full of grief. Malcolm Price came in a minute later. He was in his 50s like the voicemail suggested, gray at the temples, tie slightly loosened like he'd been running between meetings. He had kind eyes, but the kind eyes didn't soften what he was about to say. He shook my hand. "Ms. Holloway, Diane, please sit." I sat and gripped my purse strap like it could keep me grounded. He slid a folder onto the table, thick, tabbed, organized. My stomach twisted. "That's about my son?" "Yes," he said quietly, "and about what's happening now." He opened the folder and pulled out a printed copy of Brittany's trespass email, then my screenshots, then a page of bank transactions, highlighted. "Before we begin," he said, "I need to ask you something directly." I nodded, bracing. "Did Brittany remove you from the home without your consent?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "She gave me one day." "And did she deny you contact with the children?" he asked. "Yes," I said again, and my voice cracked. "She's doing it now." Malcolm's jaw tightened. "All right," he said. "Then the contingency language matters." He flipped to another document, one with a signature line at the bottom. I saw Grant's name. My eyes flooded so fast I blinked hard. Malcolm tapped the page gently. "Grant created the trust, $7 million. It's held with specific instructions, and it's not controlled by Brittany." I swallowed. Why would he do that? Malcolm looked at me for a long beat. Then he said, "Because he was afraid." Those words went through me like ice. "Afraid of what?" I whispered. Malcolm reached into the folder again and pulled out a small transcript page, typed, clean. Then he looked me straight in the eyes. "Diane," he said, "there are recordings." My fingers tightened around my purse strap until it hurt. Recordings of what? He didn't answer right away. He just let the silence stretch until my heartbeat filled it. Then he said, "Recordings of Brittany talking about you. About removing you, about moving the children, about making sure you never see them again." My vision narrowed. That's insane." "It's real," he said, "and it's worse than that." I felt my whole body go cold. "What do you mean, worse?" Malcolm lowered his voice like the walls could hear. "Because the bank activity suggests she started moving money before Grant passed." My breath stopped. He slid the highlighted statement closer to me, and the date at the top punched me right in the face. Transactions. From before the funeral. Before I even understood, I was about to lose everything. I stared at the paper, and my hands started shaking again. And Malcolm said, very quietly, like he was setting down a bomb between us, "Diane, I need you to tell me right now, do you have anything Grant gave you? Anything he told you to keep safe?" My throat closed. My purse felt suddenly heavy, like it had a heartbeat inside it. I looked at Malcolm. Then I unzipped the inside pocket with trembling fingers, and I pulled out the flash drive. Hard cut. Because the next thing on that drive is going to decide whether Brittany gets away with this or whether she finally meets the version of me I've been trying not to become. Malcolm didn't snatch the flash drive out of my hand like a movie villain. He just stared at it for a second, real still, like he was reading my son's handwriting through the plastic. Then he reached for a little evidence envelope in his folder, plain manila, pre-labeled, and slid it across the table to me. "Before we plug anything in," he said, "I want it documented, chain of custody." I gave him a look. "I'm not a criminal." "I know," he said gently, "but she's treating you like one, so we do this right." That landed hard. Somewhere inside me, the part that still wanted to believe Brittany was just overwhelmed, finally shut up. I placed the drive in the envelope. Malcolm wrote the date and time in neat block letters, then had me sign it. My signature looked shaky, like I was signing from inside a storm. "Okay," Malcolm said, "come with me." He didn't take me to some dramatic basement room. He walked me down the hall to a smaller office with a desktop computer, a speaker system, and one of those shredders that makes you feel like secrets live here. He shut the door. "Diane," he said, and his voice got careful, "I need you to be ready for this to hurt." I swallowed. "Just play it." He plugged the flash drive in. A folder popped up on the monitor with simple file names. Audio_01, Audio_02, Video_01. Notes. My stomach flipped. Grant had organized it. Malcolm clicked notes first. A text file opened with Grant's shaky typing, like he'd been fighting his own hands. It wasn't long. It didn't need to be. He wrote that he loved the kids. He wrote that he loved me. He wrote that he was scared Brittany would cut me out the minute he was gone. He wrote that he recorded what he could so Mom isn't alone when they lie. And then, at the bottom, one sentence that made my chest cave in. "If Mom is removed, I want her to have the kids." I pressed my fingers to my lips so I wouldn't make a sound I couldn't take back. Malcolm cleared his throat. "All right," he said, Audio_01. He clicked it. There was a little hiss, like someone had started recording in a pocket, a muffled TV in the background, and then Brittany's voice. Not funeral Brittany, not public Brittany. Private Brittany. She sounded irritated, like somebody had asked her to do a chore. "I can't do this with her in the house," Brittany said. "It's like having his mother as a roommate." A man's voice answered, low, not Grant's. "Then get rid of her." Brittany let out a sharp breath. "I will. I'm waiting until after, after the arrangements." "Why wait?" the man asked. "Because people are watching right now," Brittany snapped, "and she's crying everywhere and acting like she owns him." My heart pounded in my ears. I gripped the arm of the chair so hard it hurt. The man said, "So what's the plan?" Brittany's voice got colder. "I give her a deadline, she goes. If she doesn't, I call the cops and say she's unstable." I felt my stomach drop. Malcolm's face stayed neutral, but his jaw tightened in a way that told me he'd heard this kind of ugliness before and still hated it. Brittany continued, "And I'm taking her off everything. School, doctors, emergency contacts. She can't just show up and play grandma." The man chuckled. "You're savage." Brittany didn't laugh. "I'm realistic." One of my hands went to my chest without thinking, like I could hold my heart in place. Then Brittany said the part that made the room tilt. "I'm not staying in Columbus," she said. "I'm not raising them here with his people." "Where are you going?" the man asked. "My sister's in Charlotte," Brittany replied. "I'll say it's a fresh start. Everybody eats that up. New beginnings." Charlotte. Out of state. That wasn't just erasing me. That was cutting me off at the knees. Malcolm paused the audio. "Diane," he said softly, "this is significant." I stared at the computer screen like it was a living thing. She said that before he even died. "Yes," he said, "and she stated intent to use law enforcement and to relocate. That matters." Malcolm hit play again. Brittany's voice got quieter. "And the money. I'm not letting her get her hands on anything." "The money's yours," the man said. "It's supposed to be," Brittany replied. But he's been weird. He's been talking to lawyers. My breath caught. Brittany kept going, so I'm moving what I can now, just in case. Just in case. I felt heat rise up my neck. I wanted to stand up, to walk out, to scream in the hallway, but my body stayed stuck. Malcolm clicked stop and pulled the volume down like he was closing a lid on something poisonous. "That's receipt 1, he said quietly, more to himself than me. "Intent, relocation, threats." I nodded, but I wasn't really nodding at him. I was nodding at my son, wherever he was, because he'd tried to protect me with the only thing he had left, a record. Malcolm opened a second file, audio_02, and this one started clearer, like Grant had placed the phone on a counter. Brittany again, but this time she sounded stressed. "I told you I have it handled," she said. "The same, man. Handled how?" "By getting her out," Brittany snapped, "and by getting the school stuff switched, and by making sure she can't claim anything." The man said, "She's not gonna go quietly." Brittany let out a laugh that chilled me. "You don't know Diane. She's old school. She'll fold. She's embarrassed." I closed my eyes, because she was right about that part. I had been embarrassed. I had tried to disappear. Brittany added, "If she tries anything, I'll tell people she's confused, that she's grieving too hard. You know how people get when they're older." My cheeks burned. I opened my eyes and looked at Malcolm. He didn't look shocked. He looked angry. Malcolm stopped the audio and leaned back. "Okay," he said. "Now we move from listening to action." He went back to the trust paperwork and flipped to a tabbed page. "Grant appointed a trustee," he said. I blinked. "Trustee? Like who controls it?" "Exactly," he replied. "And it's not Brittany." He turned the paper so I could see the name. Malcolm Price. I stared at it. "You?" He nodded once. "Me. That means she can't drain it. She can't redirect it. She can't charm it out of you." My throat tightened. "Grant trusted you." "I represented him," Malcolm said, privately, toward the end. That was another gut punch. Not in a bad way, just reality rearranging itself. Grant had been planning while I was praying. Malcolm continued, "Now the custody provision isn't an automatic. Hand them to Grandma. Switch. Courts don't work like that. But it's powerful evidence of his intent." "So what do we do?" I asked, and my voice sounded small to my own ears. Malcolm slid a legal pad toward me. "We build a ladder," he said. "We document every act of interference. We file for emergency relief if warranted. We involve a social worker the right way, not the weaponized way. And we protect you financially." He paused, then added, "And we prepare for her to hit back." That last sentence felt like a door slamming. Because it wasn't a question anymore, it was a forecast. Malcolm asked me to pull up my Chase app again. He printed out the transactions I'd screenshotted, dates, amounts, labels, and attached them to a new folder with a bright red tab. "Do you have access to Grant's accounts?" he asked. "I don't," I said. "I didn't handle his banking. I handled life." "That's fine," he said. "We subpoena what we need later if it goes there." He made copies of Brittany's trespass email, the Columbus City Schools pickup authorization confirmation, and the 2 threatening texts I'd saved. Then he had me write a timeline in plain language, like I was telling you over coffee, because that's what it was, really. Funeral date. Day she gave me the deadline. Morning she watched me drive away. Day the school email arrived. Day Malcolm called. "Keep it simple," he said. "Dates and actions." I wrote until my hand cramped. Then Malcolm leaned forward. "Now here's the part you're not going to like," he said. I let out a humorless little breath. At this point, I'm not liking any part. He nodded. "Brittany has already laid groundwork to paint you as unstable. That means you need to be steady and boring. No surprise visits, no angry texts, no confrontations in driveways." "So I just do nothing?" I asked. "You do things through the right channels," he corrected, "and you keep your emotions off the record." That hurt in a weird way, like being told my grief was inconvenient. But I understood what he meant. Brittany wanted a scene, a shaky grandma banging on the door, a 911 call. A report. She wanted a story that made her look like the responsible one. Malcolm's receptionist knocked lightly and poked her head in. "Mr. Price, there's a call on line 1. It's about you. The caller says it's urgent." Malcolm's eyes flicked to mine. "Name?" The receptionist hesitated. "Brittany Kincaid." My whole body went tight. Malcolm looked calm, but I saw the way his shoulders squared. "Put her through," he said. The receptionist disappeared. The phone on Malcolm's desk lit up. He hit speaker. Brittany's voice came through, sharp and sweet at the same time. "Malcolm, finally." "Ms. Kincaid," Malcolm said evenly, "this line is recorded." "Oh, good," Brittany replied. "Record it, because I'm going to be very clear." My stomach churned. Brittany continued, "Your office is encouraging harassment. Diane Holloway has been contacting people about me. She's telling lies. She is unstable, and I need you to tell her to stop." I stared at the speaker like it could bite me. Malcolm didn't raise his voice. "Miss Kincaid, Diane has retained counsel. Any communications should go through me." Brittany made a little scoffing sound. "She doesn't have money for counsel." Malcolm said, "She has representation." Brittany's voice sharpened. "Then you can tell her she's not allowed near my children. If she shows up at the school again." "Again?" My head snapped up. Again implied I'd already done it. Malcolm's gaze met mine for half a second. He caught it too. "I'm not aware of her showing up at the school," Malcolm said. Brittany's tone went syrupy. "Oh, so she hasn't told you her little stunt? Interesting." My face went hot. I wanted to shout, but I stayed quiet because Malcolm had just told me, boring and steady. Malcolm said, "Miss Kincaid, if you have an allegation, provide it in writing. Otherwise, this call is not productive." Brittany's sweetness dropped. "I'm filing for a protective order," she said flatly. "So tell Diane she can cry to you all she wants. She's not getting near them." And then she added, like she couldn't resist twisting the knife, "And that trust? Cute. But I'm their mother. I win." The line went dead. I sat there breathing through my nose like I was trying not to explode. Malcolm slowly set the phone down. "Okay," he said, "that's our first live hit." My hands were shaking. "I never went to the school." "I believe you," he said, "and we'll prove it." "How?" I demanded. "She can say anything." Malcolm opened a drawer and pulled out a blank form. "Because schools have cameras," he said, "and attendance records, and we're going to request those. Also, your phone location history can help. Receipts cut through stories." He paused and looked at me. "Did you go anywhere near the school?" "No," I said. "I went to Target, Kroger, the diner, here." "Good," he said. "Then we keep you clean." He made a call to someone I hadn't met yet, Tasha Wilkins, the county social worker, because Grant had listed her in one of the documents as a contact for child welfare transition support. That was Grant's wording, not mine. Malcolm put her on speaker too. Tasha's voice was brisk but not cruel. "This is Tasha." "Tasha, it's Malcolm Price," he said. "I have Diane Holloway with me. We need to get ahead of a potential custodial interference situation." There was a pause, then Tasha's tone softened a fraction. "Diane Holloway, Grant's mother?" "Yes," Malcolm said. "Grant's wife has removed Diane from the home and is restricting contact. There are documents indicating Grant's intent for Diane to remain in the children's lives. We have recordings suggesting relocation out of state." Tasha exhaled. "All right," she said. "I can't make custody decisions, but I can document concerns, advise appropriate steps, and ensure that children's stability is considered. Diane, are you safe tonight?" That question again. I swallowed. "I have a car," I said. "A Camry. I've been managing." Tasha's voice got firm. "No, you need a bed. I can connect you with temporary housing resources, but given your age and situation, we should also look at safe family placement. Do you have someone local you trust?" Nancy, but Nancy's house felt like a target. I hesitated too long, and Malcolm jumped in. "We have a friend, Nancy Hargrove," he said. "Neighbor, long-term, stable. She's offered support." Tasha replied, "Good. Diane, if you choose that, keep your location private. Don't post, don't text it around. And if Brittany files for a protection order, we need documentation that you're not violating it." My mouth went dry. "She can just file one?" "Anyone can file," Tasha said. "Whether it's granted is another thing. But even a temporary order can complicate contact." Malcolm thanked her and scheduled a follow-up for the next morning. When the call ended, I stared at the wall for a second, trying to keep my thoughts from spinning apart. "So she's already lying," I said. "Yes," Malcolm said, "which means she's scared." That was new. I blinked. "Scared of what?" Malcolm tapped the flash drive envelope. "Of this." "Of losing control of the story." I swallowed hard. What if she takes the kids tonight? What if she just gets in the car and goes to Charlotte? Malcolm's eyes stayed steady. "Then we file emergency motions," he said, "and we involve law enforcement through proper channels. But we don't chase, we don't create chaos she can photograph." I hated that. I hated that the proper way meant moving slow when my heart was sprinting. Malcolm slid a printed document across the table, already drafted. At the top, it said Notice of Representation/Demand to Preserve Evidence. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple. It told Brittany not to delete texts, not to destroy documents, not to move assets, not to relocate the children without proper notice. "Will this stop her?" I asked. "It makes her choices expensive," Malcolm said. That line stuck with me. Malcolm walked me through the next steps like a roadmap I didn't ask for, but desperately needed. He'd send the notice to Brittany. He'd request school records and camera footage. He'd contact Chase Fraud Prevention with me present to flag suspicious transfers tied to my account. He'd prepare filings related to visitation and potential emergency relief based on the recordings and the trust provisions. He wasn't promising me a miracle. He was promising me a process. And for the first time in days, I felt a sliver of ground under my feet. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. From Columbus City Schools again. Subject line, Absence Notification, Noah Holloway. My breath caught. I opened it. Noah was marked absent for the day. That wasn't normal. I knew Noah. He was a little rule follower. He liked his routine. Grant used to joke that Noah would show up to school early just to be on time. My fingers went cold. Then another email came in. Absence notification, Lily Holloway. Both kids absent. On a day when Brittany had apparently told the school I'd shown up again. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I looked up at Malcolm. "They're not at school." His face changed immediately. "Forward those to me." I did, right there, my cracked screen wobbling under my thumb. Malcolm stood. "Okay," he said, "this moves faster." He picked up his office phone and made a call, low and quick, not to 911, to a non-emergency line contact he clearly had because that's what attorneys do. They build phone books of people like lifelines. He asked for Officer Elena Ruiz. A few minutes later, a woman's voice came on, calm and clipped. "Ruiz." "Officer Ruiz, it's Malcolm Price," he said. "I need to document a potential custodial interference concern. 2 minors are suddenly absent after threats of relocation. There are recordings indicating intent to move out of state." There was a pause. "Are you requesting a welfare check?" Malcolm glanced at me. I nodded hard. "Yes," he said. "At the residence in Northwest Columbus, Brittany Kincaid is the mother. Diane Holloway is the grandmother and involved party. We want it noted that there are prior threats and a developing legal dispute." Officer Ruiz said, "We can do a welfare check. Understand we can't stop a legal parent from traveling without an order. But we can document, and if there's immediate risk, we act accordingly." "I understand," Malcolm said. "Please also note that the children have a stable school routine and sudden absence is a deviation." Officer Ruiz confirmed the address and told us someone would be dispatched. When the call ended, I sat there with my hands clenched in my lap, trying not to picture those kids in the back seat of a car headed to another state, their backpacks still on the hook by the door. "Diane," Malcolm said, softer now, "I want you to go somewhere safe tonight, preferably Nancy's." I swallowed. What if Brittany shows up there? What if she accuses me of stalking? "You won't contact her," Malcolm said. "You won't approach her. You will rest, and you will let the system move." I nodded, but it didn't calm me. Nothing calmed me. Because I could feel Brittany's next move coming like thunder. She'd called Malcolm directly. She'd said protective order. She'd created a fake school incident out of thin air. Now the kids were absent. That wasn't coincidence. That was choreography. I grabbed my purse and stood, legs stiff. "Can I go with Officer Ruiz?" I asked, and I hated how desperate I sounded. "No," Malcolm said immediately. "Absolutely not. That's how scenes happen." I wanted to argue. I didn't. Because as much as it killed me, he was right. I left the office with a stack of copies in my bag, printed threats, school emails, transaction pages, the signed trust tab visible through the folder, like a promise. Outside, the air felt too bright. Traffic moved like nothing mattered. I drove to Nancy's with my hands at 10 and 2 like a driver's ed student, because if I lost control of the car, I'd lose control of everything. Nancy opened the door before I even knocked, like she'd been watching through the window. She pulled me into her arms and I cracked a little, not fully, just enough for her to feel it. "I'm here," she said. "Come in." Her living room smelled like clean laundry and that lemon pledge smell older women love. It felt like safety, and that made me want to cry harder. I sat on her couch with the folder on my lap like it was a newborn. Nancy brought me tea, then stared at the paperwork. "What is all that?" "Proof," I said, and my voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone braver. She sat beside me, and I played a short piece of audio_01 from my phone, the part where Brittany said she'd claim I was unstable. Nancy's face went pale, then red. "That," Nancy started and stopped because she didn't want to shout. Then she whispered, "That snake." I nodded, staring at the tea. She thinks I'll fold. Nancy reached over and squeezed my knee. "Are you going to?" I looked up at her, and I surprised myself with how steady I felt when I answered. "No," I said, "not this time." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Then a voicemail notification popped up a second later. My hands shook as I hit play. It was Brittany's voice, breathless and dramatic, like she was performing for an imaginary jury. "Diane," she said, "stop. Stop what you're doing. You're scaring the kids. I'm asking you to leave us alone, please." Please. Like she hadn't watched me drive away with a coffee mug in her hand. I stared at Nancy. She left me a voicemail. Nancy's eyes narrowed. "She wants it recorded." "Exactly," I whispered. I saved it. I screenshotted the voicemail timestamp. I forwarded it to Malcolm. Then my phone buzzed again, this time a text. "I have a report. Stay away. Last warning." My skin went cold. I showed Nancy. Her mouth tightened. "Report with who?" "I don't know," I said. And then, like the universe wanted to answer, Malcolm's name lit up on my screen. I answered immediately. "What happened?" Malcolm's voice was clipped. "Officer Ruiz made contact at the residence." My breath caught. And Brittany wasn't home," he said. The room went quiet. Even Nancy stopped breathing for a second. Malcolm continued. "A neighbor indicated she saw Brittany loading the car earlier. The children were not observed. Officer Ruiz could not confirm their presence." My vision blurred. "Where are they?" "We don't know yet," Malcolm said, "but I need you to stay put. Do not drive over there. Ruiz is escalating the welfare check protocol through their supervisor, and I'm drafting emergency filings now." My mouth went dry. "She's leaving. She's taking them." "Possibly," Malcolm said, "but we move smart. Diane, listen to me. Tonight you stay with Nancy. Keep your phone charged. If you receive any location sharing, any mention of travel, anything, you screenshot and send it. Understood?" I nodded like he could see me. "Yes." He paused, then his voice softened just a hair. "And Diane?" "What?" "We're close to flipping this," he said, "but she's going to thrash first." I swallowed hard, staring at the tea I hadn't touched. Nancy leaned in, whispering, "What did he say?" I put the phone on speaker so she could hear because I couldn't hold it alone anymore. Malcolm said, "Officer Ruiz is going back out with another unit. If Brittany has already crossed state lines, we need to act before she gets comfortable. That's all I can say right now." I felt my heart hammer against my ribs. Then my phone buzzed again. A new email. Not from the school this time. From something called Ohio E-Filing Notification. Subject line, Temporary Protection Order, New Filing. My hands went numb. Nancy's eyes went wide. Oh my God. I opened it with a shaking thumb. And there it was, Brittany's name as petitioner. And my name, Diane Holloway, listed as respondent. The allegation line was short, typed, clean, and it made my stomach drop straight through the floor. Respondent attempted to remove children from school. I looked up at Nancy, and then at the front window where the streetlight outside cast a thin glare across the glass. Because right then, right as that email sat open in my hand, headlights swept across Nancy's living room wall. A car had just pulled up in the driveway, and whoever it was didn't turn the engine off right away. They sat there, idling, watching. And I knew, deep in my bones, that Brittany hadn't just hit back with paperwork. She'd brought it to my door. "Promise me you'll stay with me through the next part, because what happened in that driveway is where the whole story turns." Nancy's hand shot out and killed the lamp like we were back in some blackout drill from the 70s. The living room went dim, just the streetlight glow and the TV reflection in the window. We both stood there, frozen, listening to that engine idle outside like it owned the driveway. Nancy whispered, "Don't you move." I didn't. My phone was still in my hand, screen bright with that Ohio e-filing notice open like a threat. The car didn't honk, no door slammed, no footsteps, just waiting. And what terrified me most was how familiar that felt. Because Brittany always waited for you to move first. Then she pounced and called it reaction. Nancy crept to the front window and pulled the curtain back a half-inch, just enough to peek. She sucked in a breath. "It's not her car." My stomach clenched. "Then who is it?" Nancy's eyes stayed pinned outside. "I can't see a face. It's dark. But it's a man." A man. My mind went straight to the recordings. The low voice. The chuckle. The, "You're savage?" My hands started shaking so badly, my cracked iPhone screen looked like it was vibrating. Nancy stepped back from the window and mouthed, "Lock the back door." I moved fast, quiet, like my bones remembered how to be scared. I clicked the deadbolt and checked the chain like that would stop anything real. When I turned back, Nancy had her own phone out, already dialing. "Who are you calling?" I whispered. "Police," she said, no hesitation. And the moment she said it, there was a knock. Not a polite knock, a sharp knock that said, "Open up." Nancy didn't move. She held her phone to her ear, listening. The knock came again. Then a male voice, loud enough to carry through the door. "Ms. Hargrove, I just need to talk." My skin went cold. That voice wasn't Officer Ruiz, not calm, not official. This was casual, too casual. Nancy's jaw tightened. She called through the door without opening it. "Who are you?" A pause. "Name's Tyler," the man said. "I'm here with Brittany's friend. We just want to clear something up." Brittany's friend. I looked at Nancy, and she looked at me, and I could see the same thought in both our faces. This wasn't about clearing anything. This was about intimidation. Nancy's phone clicked. Dispatcher picked up. Nancy spoke low and fast. "I need an officer, now. Someone's in my driveway." While she was talking, my phone buzzed again. A new email notification stacked on top of the e-filing one. From Brittany Kincaid. Subject: Formal Notice. I stared at it like it had teeth. Nancy mouthed, "Don't open it." I opened it anyway, because I couldn't not. Because I'd learned in the last 48 hours that the only way to survive Brittany was to save everything she touched. The email was short, nasty, and written like she'd copied it from a template. Diane Holloway, you are hereby notified that you are not permitted on my property or near my minor children. Any further attempts at contact will be documented and reported. This is your final warning. At the bottom, she'd attached a PDF. I tapped it. It was the same trespass-style language, but now it had bolded lines and a signature block, and the words "filed" stamped on the first page, like she'd printed it from the court portal. My stomach rolled, and then, right under the stamp, a line that made my blood turn to ice. Hearing date, March 28, 2025. She'd already gotten a date. She'd already framed me as a threat. Outside, Tyler knocked again. "Diane's in there, right?" he called. "Tell her she's making this worse." Nancy's eyes narrowed. She whispered, "He knows you're here." Of course he did. Brittany always knew. She'd probably watched my Camry come into Nancy's neighborhood, or she'd had someone do it, or she'd gotten it out of my phone location somehow if Grant had ever shared it. There were 1,000 ways. The scary part was this: it didn't even matter how, it just mattered that she did. I walked toward the door and Nancy grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "No," she hissed. "You do not talk to him, that's what she wants." I nodded, swallowing, backing away. The dispatcher was asking questions on Nancy's phone. Nancy answered like a woman who'd been waiting her whole life for a reason to use her sharp voice. "Yes, he's in my driveway. Yes, he won't leave. No, I'm not opening the door. Yes, I'm afraid." Then the man outside did something that made my knees go weak. He laughed. Not loud, not friendly. Just a little laugh like a private joke. Then he said, "Ma'am, there's already a protection order. You want Diane arrested tonight? Keep hiding her." I felt my throat close, because that meant Brittany had told him about the filing, or he'd helped file it, or both. Nancy called back through the door, "Get off my property." He sighed dramatically. Okay, I'm leaving." The engine revved a little. I waited for the sound of tires backing out. Instead, a car door opened. Then another. Footsteps. Not one person. Two. Nancy and I looked at each other. I whispered, "There's two of them." And that's when a flashlight beam swept across the front window from the outside, bright and sharp. Not a phone flashlight, a real one. A voice called out, firm, "Columbus Police? Step away from the door." My whole body exhaled so hard it almost felt painful. Nancy moved to the window again, faster this time, and peeked. She whispered, "Officer." I recognized the silhouette when the porch light clicked on. Officer Elena Ruiz. Same posture, same calm presence. Nancy cracked the door open just enough to speak through the chain. Officer Ruiz's voice softened a hair. "Miss Hargrove, are you safe?" "Yes," Nancy said, and her voice shook a little despite her best efforts. "They're right there." Officer Ruiz turned her head and addressed the driveway. "Gentlemen," hands visible, back up to the curb. There was some muttering I couldn't make out. Then Officer Ruiz said, louder, "Now." Footsteps moved away. The air shifted. The pressure lifted a notch. Officer Ruiz called again, "Miss Hargrove, is Diane Holloway inside?" Nancy hesitated and looked at me. I stepped forward, not to the door, but close enough that my voice would carry. "I'm here," I called. "I'm not hiding. I'm inside. I'm safe." Officer Ruiz's tone stayed even. "All right, Diane, stay inside. Do not come out until I tell you." I did exactly what she said. Nancy kept the chain on, while Officer Ruiz spoke to the men outside. I could hear pieces of it, names, dates. "You can't be on someone's property. I don't care what she told you," and leave. A minute later, there was the sound of tires on gravel, and the driveway headlights finally disappeared. When Officer Ruiz knocked again, the knock was different. controlled, official. Nancy opened the door with the chain still on. Officer Ruiz stood there with another officer behind her, both of them serious, both of them looking like they'd already heard a messy story tonight. Officer Ruiz said, "Miss Hargrove, I need you to remove the chain so we can speak safely." Nancy looked at me, then unlatched it. Officer Ruiz stepped inside, eyes scanning the room like she was checking corners, then landed on me. "Diane," she said. "Hi." I didn't know what to do with my hands. I felt like a teenager caught doing something wrong. Officer Ruiz held up her own hand, palm out, like she was stopping my anxiety. "You're not in trouble," she said. "Not from me, but I need information." I nodded too fast. "Okay." She asked, "Did you attempt to remove the children from school today?" "No," I said immediately. "No, I haven't been near the school." Officer Ruiz's eyes stayed on mine. "Did you contact Brittany today?" "No, not once." "Did you go to her residence today?" "No." Officer Ruiz turned slightly and her partner scribbled on a notepad. Then Officer Ruiz said the sentence that made my stomach twist. "Brittany filed for a temporary protection order." "I got the email," I said, and my voice wobbled. I held up my phone like it was a badge. "And she's lying." Officer Ruiz didn't flinch at the word lying. She just nodded like she'd heard it 1,000 times. "All right, here's what matters tonight. A filing is not the same thing as service. You have not been served." My chest loosened a fraction. "So she can't." "She can try," Officer Ruiz cut in, calm but firm, "but she can't claim you violated an order you haven't been served with. That said, don't give her anything she can twist. Stay here. Stay quiet." Nancy folded her arms. "They came here to intimidate us." Officer Ruiz nodded. "I've documented it." I swallowed. "Who were they?" Officer Ruiz glanced at her notes. One identified himself as Tyler. No last name given. He claimed he was a friend. The other wouldn't speak. They left when instructed. My stomach sank. "He's connected to Brittany." "Possibly," Officer Ruiz said. "We'll note it." I lifted my phone again. "I have recordings." Officer Ruiz's face changed. Subtle, but real. "Recordings of what?" "Of Brittany," I said, and my throat tightened. "Talking about getting rid of me. Saying she'd call the police and claim I was unstable. Saying she planned to move the kids to Charlotte." Officer Ruiz's eyes sharpened. "Do you have those recordings with you?" "They're with my attorney," I said quickly. "Malcolm Price, Chen Martinez and Associates." Officer Ruiz nodded once, like that clicked into a bigger picture. "Okay, that helps." She stepped a little closer, voice low. "Right now, do you know where the children are?" "No," I whispered. "They were absent from school. Brittany wasn't home during the welfare check." Officer Ruiz's jaw tightened. "We're working on locating them." Nancy's voice went sharp. "So she can just take them?" Officer Ruiz exhaled slowly. "A legal parent can travel with their children unless there's a court order restricting it. That's why your attorney is doing emergency filings." I felt my hands start shaking again. "What can you do tonight?" Officer Ruiz looked me dead in the eye. "We can continue welfare checks. We can document. If there's evidence of immediate danger, we act. And if we locate the kids and they're safe, we confirm and report back." It wasn't enough. It didn't feel like enough. But it was real. Officer Ruiz held up her phone. "I'm going to ask you for something, Diane. If you receive any texts or calls indicating location, send them to your attorney and to me. Screenshot everything." "I am," I said. "Good," she replied, "because tonight, Brittany is trying to build a paper wall around those kids. And paper walls can be knocked down. But only if you have your own paper." That sentence hit me hard. Officer Ruiz left after another minute, telling Nancy she'd patrol the neighborhood for a bit. Nancy locked the door behind her like she was sealing a vault. For a second, the house was quiet again. Then my phone buzzed. A location pin. My heart lurched so hard I thought I'd drop the phone. It wasn't from Brittany. It was from an unknown number. Message: "Here, come get him if you can." And underneath it, a shared location. I stared at the map, my pulse in my throat. The pin was moving. heading south. Nancy leaned over my shoulder. Oh my God. I didn't even think. I hit screenshot, then another. Then I forwarded it to Malcolm so fast my fingers fumbled. Nancy grabbed my wrist. Diane, don't you go chasing. I'm not, I whispered, but my eyes were locked on that moving dot like it was my grandkid's heartbeat. The pin stopped. Then it shifted again. It was like someone was playing with me. My phone rang. Malcolm. I answered immediately. I got a location pin. His voice was tight. Forwarded screenshots received. Do not reply. Do not move. It's moving, I said, barely breathing. It's like they're taunting me. I know, Malcolm said. Listen carefully. That could be a trap. It could be the boyfriend trying to lure you out to claim stalking, or a violation. You stay at Nancy's. My stomach churned. But what if it's real? What if the kids are… Malcolm cut in, firm. Diane, you cannot win if you give her a scene. I'm contacting Officer Ruiz with the screenshots. They can use it to locate the vehicle if it's credible. You, right now, stay put. I swallowed the urge to run out the door like a crazy woman. My whole body felt like it wanted to sprint. Okay, I whispered. Malcolm softened. You did the right thing. You captured it. That's how we win this. He hung up. Nancy turned the TV on, low, like noise could keep us from hearing our own fear. I paced. I paced again. I drank tea I couldn't taste. Then, mini twist that made my stomach flip again, my Chase app sent an alert. Debit card purchase, $1, $250, hotel booking. My heart stopped. That's not me, I said out loud to nobody. Nancy's eyes snapped to me. What? I shoved the phone toward her. Someone used my card. Nancy's mouth fell open. How would they even? Because my card info has been in that house, I said, voice shaking. Because I used it for groceries. Because I didn't finish the sentence because it hurt too much. I hadn't thought like a person at war. I'd thought like a grandmother. I tapped the transaction details. It showed a merchant name and city. Not Columbus. Dayton, Ohio. My blood went cold. Dayton is southwest, not Charlotte, but it's a straight shot toward leaving the area, a stopover, a handoff point, a night before the big move. And the amount, $1, $250, wasn't a cheap motel. That was a we're staying somewhere nice number. Nancy's voice went hoarse. Are the kids with her? I don't know, I whispered, but she's moving. I took a screenshot, forwarded to Malcolm. Then I did the only thing I could do that didn't involve driving like a maniac down I-70. I called Chase. It took forever to get a human. When I did, I was shaking so bad I could barely answer their security questions. The poor guy on the line sounded 19, like this was his first week. Ma'am, he said gently, do you recognize this transaction? No, I said. No, I didn't make it. Okay, he replied. We can dispute and freeze the card. Are you in possession of the card right now? Yes, I said. Then your card number may have been compromised, he said, and his voice stayed polite like this was normal, like my life wasn't actively being stolen. He froze it, he read me a case number, I wrote it down on Nancy's notepad with shaking hands. Receipt, another one. The moment I hung up, another email came in. From Malcolm Price. Subject, emergency motion filed. My heart pounded as I opened it. Attachment, emergency motion for temporary restraining order.pdf. He'd filed. Against Brittany. To prevent relocation. To compel disclosure of the children's location. To preserve assets. I stared at that PDF like it was a lifeboat. Nancy whispered, Does that mean? It means we're not begging anymore, I said, and my voice surprised me. It sounded steadier than I felt. I forwarded the email to my own personal account too, just in case. Then my phone buzzed again. Text, unknown number. You did this. Now you don't get to see them. My stomach turned. Another text followed immediately. They're calling you crazy. Everybody knows. I felt my face burn, not because I believed it, because Brittany knew exactly what words would pull my shame like a leash. I stared at the messages. Nancy said, "Don't you answer." "I'm not," I whispered. Screenshot. Forward. Save. My phone buzzed again. This time, a notification from the school portal. A message had been posted under Student Notes. I opened it. Students will be transferring effective immediately. Records request pending. My breath left my body. Transferring. Effective immediately. Nancy covered her mouth with her hand. No. I sat down hard on the couch because my knees stopped working. So Brittany wasn't just leaving town. She was cutting the kids from their school like she was pulling weeds. I took screenshots, all of it, the date, the message, the account ID at the top. Receipt after receipt, like Brittany was building her own case against herself and couldn't stop. My phone rang again, Officer Ruiz. I answered so fast I almost dropped it. Yes? "Diane," Officer Ruiz said, "we received the location screenshots from your attorney." My heart hammered. "Can you track it?" "We can use it as information," she replied. "And we're coordinating with a unit on the highway, but I need you to understand, unless we have an Amber Alert level situation or a court order, we're limited." My voice cracked. "She's lying in court. She said I tried to take them from school." "I know," Officer Ruiz said, and her voice had an edge now. "That allegation is being documented as disputed." I swallowed. "What about the kids? Are they safe?" Officer Ruiz paused. "We have a lead." My whole body went still. What led? A plate reader pinged a vehicle registered to Brittany Kincaid. She said, "Careful." It was observed near a hotel area outside Dayton. My heart lurched. That matches my chase alert, a hotel booking in Dayton. Officer Ruiz's tone tightened. "That's useful. Can you send me the screenshot of that transaction with timestamp?" "Yes," I breathed. "Yes, right now." I sent it. Officer Ruiz said, "We're going to attempt a welfare check at that location. If the children are present and safe, we will confirm." "And if they're not?" I whispered. "Then we keep going," she replied. "Diane, do not leave Nancy's house." I nodded into the phone like she could see. "Okay." After the call, Nancy sat beside me and held my hand like I was her daughter. "Your son was smart," she whispered. "He knew." I looked down at my phone, at the motion filed, at the school transfer note, at the hotel charge. "He didn't just know," I said. "He prepared." Nancy's eyes narrowed. "What else is on that drive?" I hesitated. Because here was the turning point I hadn't admitted out loud yet, the real one. The recordings weren't the only thing in that folder. There was a video file. And Malcolm had not played it yet because he'd been moving fast. Filing, calling, coordinating. But when he clicked on that folder earlier, I'd seen it. Video_01. My stomach tightened. I grabbed my phone and texted Malcolm, "Did you watch video_01? He didn't answer right away. Minutes crawled. In that space, my brain did what brains do when they're terrified. It ran every worst-case scenario like it was trying to outrun surprise. What if Brittany had already crossed state lines? What if she was on a plane? What if the kids were crying? What if Noah was trying to be brave for Lily? I pressed my fist into my mouth to keep from making noise. Then Malcolm finally called. "Diane," he said, voice low, "I just opened video_01. My heart slammed. "What is it?" I whispered. Malcolm paused. "It's Grant. In the hospital. He recorded it on his phone." My throat closed. "Grant." "He's talking to the camera," Malcolm continued, "and he names Brittany. He names her plan. He says she's been moving money. He says he's afraid she'll take the kids and isolate them. And he says very clearly that if you are removed from the home, he wants immediate court involvement to ensure you have access." Tears blurred my vision instantly. "Oh my God." Malcolm's voice tightened. Diane, he also says something else. My whole body went cold again. What? He says Brittany has someone helping her. Malcolm replied. He says he heard her on the phone with a man, Tyler, and he believes Tyler is pushing her to relocate and to claim you're dangerous. My skin prickled. So the man in the driveway wasn't random. Grant had heard his name. Malcolm added, and there's a moment, Diane, listen, there's a moment where Grant says, if you're hearing this, Mom, it means I'm gone, and she's already started. My breath hitched. Malcolm's voice softened. I'm so sorry. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, angry at the tears because they made me feel weak, even though they weren't. Malcolm, I said, forcing my voice steady, is that video admissible? Yes, he said immediately. It's powerful, and it counters the unstable grandma narrative because it shows his intent in his own words. I swallowed hard. Then that's the weapon. There was a pause. Yes, Malcolm said, it is. Malcolm continued, I'm sending the video transcript to the court as supplemental support with the emergency motion. We're pushing for an immediate hearing and a temporary order preventing relocation. And the kids? I asked, voice cracking again. We're waiting on Officer Ruiz's welfare check outcome, he said. Stay ready. Ready for what? I wanted to ask. For heartbreak? For relief? For a fight? But I didn't say it. I just nodded like a woman who understood, like a woman who wasn't terrified. After I hung up, I sat very still and stared at the wall. Nancy whispered, What did he say? I told her, piece by piece. Grant's video, Tyler's name, the plan. Nancy's face went hard. If that man comes back here. He won't, I said, and I surprised myself again with how sure it sounded. Not once the police know his name and the court has Grant's video. Nancy squeezed my hand. Your boy's still protecting you. That's when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from the court portal, another e-filing notification. Subject, temporary order signed, pending service. My heart jumped into my throat. I opened it so fast my thumb slipped. Inside was a one-page order with a judge's signature at the bottom. It wasn't the full victory, it wasn't custody, it wasn't hand the kids to grandma. But it was something. It stated, Respondent Brittany Kincaid is ordered to refrain from removing minor children from the state of Ohio pending further hearing. I stared at it, not breathing. Nancy leaned over my shoulder and read it twice. That means she can't leave Ohio. That means, I whispered, if she's still in Ohio, she's stuck. My phone buzzed again immediately after. Officer Ruiz. I answered on the first ring. Officer? Officer Ruiz's voice was tight, controlled. Diane, we located the children. My whole body went weak. I grabbed the back of the couch with my free hand. Are they okay? I breathed. They are alive, she said carefully. They are physically safe at this moment. At this moment. My stomach turned. Where are they? At a hotel outside Dayton, Officer Ruiz replied. In Brittany's care, the children appear unharmed. They were tired and confused. I covered my mouth with my hand, tears spilling again. Nancy's hand went to my back, steadying me. Officer Ruiz continued. We informed Brittany there is an emergency order pending service restricting removal from Ohio. She is not cooperative, but she is aware she's being watched. My heart pounded. Did she say where she was going? She claimed she was taking a break and that she had every right, Officer Ruiz said. She also claimed you attempted to abduct the children. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Officer Ruiz added, We documented the children's condition. We documented the hotel room. We documented Brittany's statements. Receipts, real ones. Then Officer Ruiz said the sentence that made my blood go cold all over again. Diane, Brittany asked us to serve you tonight. I blinked. Serve me? With her temporary protection order paperwork, Officer Ruiz said, she wants it on record that you've been served tonight. My mouth went dry. So she can claim I violated it. Yes, Officer Ruiz replied. That's why I'm calling. You need to know it's coming. Nancy whispered, Oh, hell no. I swallowed, heart hammering. What do I do? Officer Ruiz's voice stayed calm. You accept service. You do not argue. You do not contact her. You let your attorney respond. My throat tightened. And the kids? Officer Ruiz paused. We cannot remove them without a court order. But with Grant's recordings and your attorney's emergency filing, that could change quickly. I closed my eyes, fighting dizziness. Officer Ruiz finished, Diane Brittany is escalating because she feels control slipping. Stay steady. When the call ended, Nancy and I sat in silence for a long moment, the kind that's too loud. Then Nancy stood up, walked to her front window, and flipped the porch light on like a challenge. Let them come serve you, she said. We'll do it right. Cameras on, door locked, everything documented. I wiped my face. Nancy, I don't want you dragged into... Nancy cut me off. Diane, you didn't drag me. Brittany did. I nodded, swallowing hard. My phone buzzed again, Malcolm sending the signed temporary order PDF. I saved it, screenshotted it, backed it up. I was a woman hoarding paper because paper was the only shield I had. Then, another twist that made my stomach flip. My phone lit up with a FaceTime call. From a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. I couldn't. It rang again, and again. Then the unknown number texted. Want to see them? Answer. My hands went numb. Nancy leaned over. Don't. I stared at that message until my vision blurred. Because the thing is, if you're a grandmother, your whole body wants to answer. Your whole body wants to see their faces and hear their voices and make sure they're breathing. That's the trap. And Brittany knew it. I took a screenshot, forwarded to Malcolm, forwarded to Officer Ruiz. Then, with shaking fingers, I blocked the number. Nancy exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for me. I whispered, I hate her. Nancy nodded. Good, use it. Outside, far off, a car door slammed somewhere in the neighborhood. Then another. And headlights swept across Nancy's living room wall again, this time slower, deliberate. A vehicle rolled into the driveway. And this time, it didn't idle. It shut off. Footsteps approached the porch. A firm knock. And a voice, loud and official, called through the door. Diane Holloway, I have legal documents for you. Nancy's eyes met mine. My heart pounded so hard, I thought I might throw up. Because I knew the second I opened that door and accepted those papers, the next phase started: court, orders, and the moment where Brittany would realize she can't scare me back into silence. And I also knew something else. Brittany didn't go to Dayton for a break. She went there because she was trying to run the clock out. So yeah, next part? Next part is where we stop reacting and we take the wheel. I didn't open the door wide. I cracked it just enough to see the badge and the folder, with Nancy right beside me like a wall. The man on the porch wasn't Brittany's Tyler. This one was a uniformed deputy, polite in that tired, end-of-shift way. Diane Holloway, he asked. Yes, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. I'm here to serve you documents related to a temporary protection order, he said. You are not under arrest. This is service only. Nancy leaned toward the crack in the door and said, loud enough for the whole neighborhood, we have a camera recording. The deputy didn't even blink. That's fine. I held out my hand through the gap, palm up, like I was taking medicine I didn't want. He slid the papers toward me, careful not to touch me, like the air between us was legal. I took them. My fingers were cold. He pointed to a page. You'll see a hearing date. If you have counsel, contact them. If you need resources, the clerk's office can. I have counsel, I said quickly. Malcolm Price. Chen Martinez and Associates. That got a tiny pause, like that name meant something even to a deputy on a porch at night. He nodded. All right, he said. Don't contact the petitioner. Avoid the petitioner's residence and children's school. That's all. I wanted to bark. I already am, but I didn't. No speeches. No emotions for strangers in uniforms, I'd learned. He walked back to his car and pulled away. Nancy shut the door and locked it like she was sealing a vault again. We stood there for a second with the papers in my hands, both of us listening to the quiet after the storm. Then I looked down. The petition was a mess of half-truths and clean lies. It claimed I had appeared at the school and tried to remove the minors. It claimed the children expressed fear. It claimed Brittany had reasonable concern for safety. And then there was a section that made my jaw tighten so hard it hurt. It listed supporting witness. Tyler, last name included this time. So he wasn't just some random guy in a driveway. He was part of her filing. I pulled my phone out and took photos of every page, every signature, every timestamp, every case number at the top. Then I sent them to Malcolm. Nancy said, "She's using the court like a weapon." "Yeah," I murmured, flipping the pages, "and she wants me to panic." Because the last page had a box checked. Request, no contact with minors. She wasn't just trying to scare me. She was trying to erase me with a judge's pen. My stomach turned. Then my phone buzzed. An email from Malcolm popped up almost instantly, like the man never slept. Subject, response filed / evidence packet prepared. Attachment list. Response to petition. Motion to dismiss / deny TRO. Exhibits AH. I stared at that like it was a miracle. Nancy whispered, "He's fast." "He has to be," I said, and I could hear the grit in my own voice. I opened Malcolm's email and scrolled. Exhibit names were right there, plain as day. Exhibit A, school absence notifications. Exhibit B, emergency order restricting removal from Ohio. Exhibit C, screenshots of Brittany's threats. Exhibit D, hotel charge / Dayton, chase alert. Exhibit E, audio transcript excerpts. Exhibit F, video transcript excerpt, grant. Exhibit G, police welfare check notes, Officer Ruiz reference. Exhibit H, Columbus City Schools pickup authorization. Real, numbered, boring, deadly. Nancy exhaled. "Okay, so what now?" My phone rang before I could answer. Malcolm. I put it on speaker because I was done carrying this alone. "Diane," Malcolm said, no small talk. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do. Service is complete. And that protects you, weirdly, because now we can address it head on." "Can she keep me away from the kids?" I asked, and my voice cracked on kids. "Not based on lies," he said, "but we don't gamble. We show up prepared." Nancy leaned closer to the phone. "They're in Dayton." "Yes," Malcolm replied. Officer Ruiz confirmed location. "And Diane, this matters. Brittany is still in Ohio, which means our emergency non-removal order has teeth." I swallowed. "So what do we do tonight?" "We don't chase," Malcolm said immediately. "We sleep. Or we try. Then we hit the court first thing." I looked at the papers in my hands. "My hearing date is March 28th. "That's for her petition," he said. "I got an emergency slot tomorrow morning for our motion related to relocation and interference, separate track, and I'm pushing to consolidate." Nancy muttered, "Good." Malcolm continued, "Tasha Wilkins will be present. Officer Ruiz will provide documentation. And Diane, we are going to request a temporary order for immediate access, potentially temporary placement, pending full hearing." My throat tightened. "Temporary placement with me?" "Yes," he said, calm like it was a normal thing to say about a woman who slept in a car 2 nights ago. I sat down hard on Nancy's couch, the papers sliding a little in my lap. "And Brittany?" I asked. "Brittany is going to show up and act like a victim," Malcolm said. "Let her. The point is not to beat her in a shouting match. The point is to beat her on the record." That hit me like a bell. Quiet wins, paper wins, time-stamped wins. I asked, "What about Tyler?" "I'm asking the judge to restrict third-party contact around the children," Malcolm said. "And I'm attaching Grant's video transcript where Tyler is named. That's not nothing." I closed my eyes for a second. seeing Grant's face in my head, hospital lighting, that tired seriousness, him still parenting from a bed. "All right," I whispered. Malcolm's voice softened a hair. "Diane, do you have somewhere safe tonight?" Nancy reached over and squeezed my hand. "She's with me." "Good," Malcolm said. "Stay there. Don't post. Don't engage. I'll text you a time for court and what to bring." He hung up. Nancy stood and went to her kitchen like she needed something to do with her hands. I sat on the couch with the served papers and Malcolm's email open, staring at the bright screen until my eyes hurt. And then, because Brittany can't help herself, my phone buzzed again. New text, unknown number. "Enjoy court, you'll lose." No signature. But I knew. I took the screenshot, sent it to Malcolm, and didn't respond. Not one word. Silence is a weapon, too. I slept in pieces that night, 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Noah's face. I saw Lily's little stuffed animals lined up like an audience. I saw Brittany's coffee mug in the window. At around 5 in the morning, Nancy shook my shoulder gently. "Diane," she whispered, "honey, you're dreaming out loud." I sat up, heart racing, mouth dry. Nancy handed me coffee, real coffee, not diner coffee. It tasted like life. "Today," she said quietly, "we do this." I nodded. My hands were trembling again, but it wasn't helpless trembling. It was adrenaline. It was my body finally agreeing to fight. By 8, we were at the Franklin County Courthouse. Gray building. Metal detectors. That sterile air that always smells like anxiety and floor cleaner. Malcolm met us in the lobby, folder in hand, tie tightened, eyes focused. He greeted me with a simple nod like we were teammates and not strangers. Tasha Wilkins was there too, clipboard, sensible shoes, hair pulled back like she didn't have time for drama. She looked at me and said, "Diane?" "Yes." "I'm glad you came," she said, and I could tell she meant it. Officer Ruiz arrived a few minutes later, uniform crisp, expression steady. She gave me a small nod like, "You're doing fine, keep it together." That mattered more than I expected. Malcolm leaned toward me. "Brittany is here," he said quietly. My stomach clenched. "Where?" He tilted his head toward the hallway. And there she was. Brittany Kincaid, hair done, makeup perfect, carrying a binder like she'd watched a few courtroom shows and thought she could cosplay her way to control. Beside her was Tyler, clean-cut, smug, hands in his pockets like he owned the building. And behind them, this is the part that turned my stomach, was a woman I didn't recognize, holding a large tote bag, whispering in Brittany's ear like a coach. Brittany saw me and her face tightened just for a second. Then she smoothed it out and walked right over like she was greeting someone at church. She stopped 2 feet from me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. She said, loud enough for other people to hear, "Diane, I'm begging you to stop." Begging, in a courthouse hallway, with witnesses. I didn't answer. Tyler smirked. Brittany's eyes flicked to Nancy like she was a stain. Then back to me. "You're scaring my children," she said, voice quivering on command. I kept my hands clasped and looked straight ahead. Malcolm stepped between us like a door. "Ms. Kincaid," he said calmly, "do not speak to my client." Brittany's face hardened. "She's not your client," she snapped. "She's a problem." Malcolm didn't even blink. "She is my client." Brittany's cheeks flushed. Tyler leaned in and murmured something to her. Officer Ruiz moved 1 step closer, just enough to make it clear the hallway wasn't Brittany's stage. Tasha Wilkins watched Brittany with a face that said, "I've seen this before." Brittany threw her hands up slightly, like she was performing exasperation. "Fine," she said. "Let's tell the judge what she did." I didn't look at her. I couldn't. If I looked, I'd say something that would feel good for 5 seconds and cost me months. I just whispered to myself, barely audible, boring, steady, clean. Nancy squeezed my shoulder. We went into the courtroom, small, bright, uncomfortable. The judge sat above us like a tired parent. Malcolm spoke first. He didn't rant. He didn't insult. He laid out a timeline. He presented exhibits. He handed the bailiff a stack of printed pages and said, "Time-stamped." Brittany's attorney, or whatever that woman was, objected to everything like volume could change reality. The judge didn't seem impressed. Then Brittany got her turn. She cried, not messy crying, pretty crying, wiping under her eyes carefully so her mascara didn't run. She said she feared for her kids. She said I was erratic. She said I showed up at school. She said she needed to start over after losing her husband. And when she said start over, she glanced at Tyler like he was a secret she was proud of. The judge asked, quote, "Where are the children currently?" Brittany hesitated. "With me." "In Columbus?" the judge pressed. Brittany's eyes flicked sideways. We needed space." Officer Ruiz's voice carried when she spoke. "Your Honor, the children were located outside Dayton overnight." Brittany's head snapped toward her. That was temporary. The judge's eyes narrowed. "Are you planning to relocate out of state?" Brittany sat up straighter. "No, of course not." Malcolm stood. "Your Honor, we have evidence of stated intent to relocate to Charlotte, North Carolina." Brittany scoffed. "That's ridiculous." Malcolm nodded once, like he'd expected that exact reaction. "May I submit Exhibit F and play a short excerpt of audio with the court's permission?" Brittany's attorney jumped up. "Objection. Hearsay." The judge held up a hand. "Let's hear the foundation." Malcolm explained the flash drive, the notes, the chain of custody envelope, and Grant's recorded statements. He didn't overdo it. He didn't dramatize my dead son. He treated it like evidence, which was both painful and oddly comforting. The judge looked at Brittany. "Miss Kincaid, did your husband create recordings?" Brittany's face went blank for half a second, a crack in the mask. "I don't know," she said quickly. "He was very sick." Malcolm glanced toward me like, "Here we go." The judge said, "Play it." Malcolm played the audio excerpt, the part where Brittany said she'd call the cops and claim I was unstable, and the part where she said she planned to move the kids to Charlotte. The courtroom felt like it stopped breathing. Brittany didn't cry anymore. Her eyes went hard and shiny, like she was watching someone else get exposed and couldn't stop it. Tyler shifted in his seat. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Kincaid," she said, voice sharp now, "is that your voice?" Brittany stared straight ahead. I was under stress. The judge didn't care. "Is that your voice?" Brittany swallowed. "Yes." That word sat in the room like a weight. "Yes." Then Malcolm played a few seconds of the video transcript. Grant naming Tyler. Grant saying he feared Brittany would isolate the kids. Grant saying, in plain words, that he wanted me to have access and safety plans in place. Brittany's attorney tried to object again, but the judge cut her off. The judge asked, "Who is Tyler to you, Miss Kincaid?" Brittany's jaw clenched. "A friend." The judge's eyes narrowed. "A friend who drove to a private residence last night and attempted to pressure an elderly woman through her front door?" Tyler opened his mouth and Officer Ruiz's gaze snapped to him. He closed it. Brittany's face flushed. She looked like she wanted to scream, but screaming doesn't play well in court. Then the judge turned to me. "Ms. Holloway," she said, and her voice softened just a notch, "have you ever attempted to remove the children from school without permission?" "No," I said. "I haven't been near their school since my son died." "Have you threatened Brittany?" "No." "Do you want the children removed from their mother permanently?" the judge asked. My throat tightened. I thought of Noah, Lily, their beds, their routines. "I want them safe," I said, "and I want them to have their family, their dad's side. I want them to stop being used as leverage." The judge nodded slowly, like that answer landed. Then she looked at Brittany again. "Miss Kincaid, you removed Miss Holloway from the home within days of Mr. Holloway's death. You removed her from school authorization. You filed an order claiming she attempted abduction while you had the children out of their normal routine and out of city, and there is recorded evidence of intent to relocate." Brittany's lips parted, ready to argue. The judge held up a hand. "No." That single word felt like air rushing back into my lungs. The judge continued, I am granting temporary orders effective immediately. Ms. Kincaid is prohibited from removing the children from Franklin County without court approval. Ms. Holloway will have temporary placement pending full hearing, with mother granted supervised visitation as arranged through the county. Brittany jerked up in her seat. What? The judge's voice stayed flat. You heard me. Brittany turned to her attorney, panicked, whispering fast. Tyler's face went pale. I sat there frozen, like my brain couldn't process the words temporary placement. With me. The judge looked at Malcolm. Counsel, coordinate with law enforcement for a peaceful transition. Malcolm nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Then the judge turned to Brittany. And Ms. Kincaid? Any violation will be treated seriously. Do not involve third parties. Do not weaponize the system. This court is not your personal assistant. Brittany's eyes flashed with hate. But she didn't get to speak again. We walked out of that courtroom, and my legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Nancy was crying openly now. No pride left, just relief. Malcolm guided me down the hall like a hand on my elbow. Officer Ruiz spoke into her phone, coordinating. Tasha Wilkins was already arranging a supervised handoff plan, scribbling on her clipboard like this was Tuesday, not the worst week of my life. Brittany followed us out, voice tight, trying to keep it together in front of people. This is insane, she hissed. You can't just take my kids. Malcolm didn't look at her. It's a temporary placement order, he said. You can challenge it at the full hearing. Do not contact Diane. Brittany's eyes darted to me, and she said, in a low voice meant only for me, You think you won? You don't even have a house. And for a split second, my old shame tried to rise up. Then I remembered her watching me drive away. I looked her in the eye for the first time in days and said, very quietly, I have proof. That was it. And it was enough. We didn't go back to her house, not yet. The order allowed coordination, and Officer Ruiz wasn't interested in a driveway showdown. They took us to a county office first. Plain building, fluorescent lights, the kind of place nobody wants to be. That's where Tasha had Brittany come for the supervised handoff from Dayton, because Brittany was still there, still in Ohio, still stuck. Brittany arrived an hour later with the kids. The moment I saw Noah and Lily step into that hallway, my whole body nearly gave out. Noah looked older than he should, like he'd been trying to act tough for his sister. Lily's hair was messy, and she clutched a little stuffed animal like it was oxygen. They both stopped when they saw me. Lily whispered, Grandma, and that one word undid me. I dropped to my knees right there, ignoring every adult in the hallway. Hi, baby, I whispered. I'm here? Noah took a cautious step forward. Mom said you tried to take us. That hit like a punch. I looked at his face, my son's eyes in that child's face, and I forced my voice to stay calm. I didn't, I said softly. I would never do that. I wouldn't scare you like that. Noah's jaw trembled, just a little. Then why? Tasha stepped in gently. Noah, you and Lily are safe. That's what matters right now. Brittany stood behind them, arms crossed, face set, like she was watching a transaction. Tyler wasn't with her this time. Court had made sure of that. Tasha spoke to Brittany quietly, firm. This is the order. You will have supervised visitation. You will not contact Diane outside scheduling. Brittany's voice was sharp. This is unfair. Tasha didn't flinch. This is court. Officer Ruiz watched Brittany like she was a loaded object. I reached out slowly to Noah. Can I hug you? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded once. I wrapped both kids into me, and they clung like they'd been holding their breath for days. And I realized right there that Brittany hadn't just tried to erase me. She'd tried to rewrite me in their minds. That's the cruelest thing she did. Not the money, not the eviction, not the paperwork. The story. I held them tight and whispered, You're with me now. I'm not going anywhere. Brittany made a sound like she wanted to argue, but she didn't, not in front of the social worker. not with Officer Ruiz 3 feet away. We left with the kids in my Camry, because life is ridiculous and beautiful like that. 2 days ago, I was sleeping in that car like it was a coffin. Now it held my whole heart in the back seat. Nancy followed us home to her place because we weren't pretending this was instantly normal. It wasn't. The kids were exhausted, confused, hungry. So we did the only thing you can do when everything's been ripped apart. We fed them. Nancy made grilled cheese like it was the cure for evil. I sat at her kitchen table with Lily coloring and Noah picking at his sandwich, watching me like he was trying to decide if he could trust the ground again. I didn't talk trash about Brittany, not once. I just kept it simple. Grown-up stuff got messy, I told them, and the court said you stay with me for now so everybody can calm down. Noah asked, "Is Mom in trouble?" I paused, choosing words like they were glass. "Mom has rules now," I said, "and rules are there to keep you safe." Later that night, after they fell asleep in Nancy's guest room, Lily curled into a ball, Noah stretched out like he was guarding the door. Malcolm called. "We have another layer," he said. My stomach tightened. "What now?" "Financial," he said. "Chase fraud case number you got last night? That hotel charge? It ties to Brittany's email address on the booking. We have documentation." I closed my eyes. "So she used my card?" "Yes," Malcolm said. "And there are additional transactions. The Zelle transfers you saw earlier? We pulled more via subpoena request draft and preliminary account tracing. It looks like she was moving money into an account linked to Tyler." My blood went cold. Malcolm continued, "I'm not saying criminal charges are guaranteed, but the paper trail is there, and Brittany is now on the wrong side of a judge who already believes she weaponized the court." I exhaled slowly. Some people don't stop until consequences touch their own skin. Malcolm said, "Also, your protection order hearing? We're filing to dismiss based on evidence, and we're requesting sanctions for false statements." "Sanctions," I repeated, tasting the word. "It can mean fees," he said. "It can mean court admonishment. It's accountability." I looked at the closed bedroom door where my grandkids slept. "Good," I said simply. After we got off the phone, I sat at Nancy's kitchen table with my cracked screen phone in my hand and felt something I hadn't felt in days. Not joy, not peace. Control. Quiet control. Because Brittany's whole game had been to make me flail. And I hadn't. I'd saved everything. I'd listened. I'd stayed steady. I'd let the receipts talk. And now the system was finally doing what it's supposed to do when someone tries to bulldoze a family with lies. The next weeks weren't a movie. They were real life. Appointments, supervised visitation schedules, school counselors, kids waking up from nightmares, Noah asking a little too many questions, Lily getting clingy at bedtime. But it got better, slowly, in small, stubborn steps. The school added my name back to the pickup list. That email confirmation hit my inbox like a victory flag. Chase sent written confirmation of the fraud investigation and the dispute case, another piece of paper for the folder. The court extended the relocation restriction. Brittany had to surrender the kids, passports if they existed. She wasn't allowed to take them out of county without written approval. And Tyler? He vanished fast once his name showed up in official documents. Funny how brave people get when they think they're untouchable, and how quiet they get when a judge can read. The full hearing came, and Brittany tried again. Different outfit, same performance, but this time she had less room to move. Grant's video didn't change. The transcripts didn't change. The dates didn't change. And the judge didn't change her mind. Brittany kept supervised visitation for a while. The court ordered co-parent counseling with a focus on the kids, grief, and Brittany had to follow rules or lose time. I didn't celebrate out loud. I just did what I came to do. I got my grandkids safe, I got them stable, I got them back into school, back into a routine, back into being children, not leverage. Some nights, after they fell asleep, I'd sit on Nancy's porch with my coffee and stare out at the quiet street and feel that cold satisfaction settle in. Not because Brittany suffered, because the truth held. That's the part people miss. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a file folder that doesn't lie. And look, if you ever find yourself up against someone like Brittany, someone who smiles while they sharpen the knife, remember this. Stay steady. Save everything. Let the record speak. If you love karma stories where receipts beat lies, hit subscribe, because I've got more you're not going to believe.